S-1 Utility is a free open-source standalone software companion app for the Roland AIRA Compact S-1 synthesizer. It has a real-time MIDI editor that works in sync with the device, and a patch inspector for a complete overview of your backed-up patches. But to get the smoothest user experience, you will have to accept a little curse. Before I describe what it is, let me explain the data communication capabilities of the S-1. Some parameters can be controlled via MIDI CCs. Others can only be modified on the device itself. S-1 Utility lets you control any CC parameter in runtime and read non-CC parameters from the backup patches you copied on your computer. Long story short, to get the most of this tool, you need to keep this backup up to date. When you open the app for the first time, it looks like this. First, we go to the settings and set correct MIDI and program change channels, mirroring the settings on the device. If you tick this box, the app will try to connect to the device on startup using the channels you specified. Let's connect manually now. As we see, not a lot has changed. The editor is connected, but it doesn't yet know the current parameter values on the hardware and displays them as unsynced. Unfortunately, S-1 cannot send the entire patch state at once, but we have a few ways to inform it. First, of course, we can just tweak the value on the synth. We can also tweak the value from the editor and get the same result. But that kinda sucks, because you don't want to twist every knob before you start. You can use the hardware shortcut of Shift+Hold to enter the manual mode and send all the panel parameter values at once. But as you see, a few are still unsynced. One simple way to quickly sync everything is to trigger an init patch. This way, the editor sends an almost identical set of parameters as triggering the init patch on hardware. But there is a drawback. The hardware has its own loaded patch, and some of its parameters do not listen to any CC. For instance, this one has a modified chop grid, as you see here. So if we start bringing up chop overtone, you hear a quite obvious result. And if you do the same on the hardware init patch, it will not sound the same. And this brings us to the ultimate method, the patch mirror feature that uses our backed up patches as the source of truth about what is stored on the hardware. The manual tells how to back up the data, but in short, you need to power the synth on while holding the play button and give it a couple of minutes to load. Copy the contents of the backup folder to your hard drive and specify the folder here. Now, as we enable the feature, our grid fully aligns with our patches stored on the synth. We can change the patches on this grid, or using keyboard arrows, or from the synth itself, and as long as your backup folder is up to date, it will stay in sync. Patch Mirror also enables the envelope-driven animations, where envelope timings were calibrated against the actual device. When you connect the editor with the patch mirror on, the software will always switch to the same patch on every connection. This is necessary to ensure the editor gives you trustworthy information. And here you can specify which patch will it be. Let's put bank 4, pattern 1. Now I disconnect, reconnect, and yay, here it is. Now let's change something here and switch to a different patch. What we see now is our previous patch got marked with yellow. It mimics the hardware behavior. The synth also temporarily stores your changes in its RAM before you power cycle it. So if you reopen the same patch before turning it off, it will still have your unsaved modification. The editor works the same, but instead of power cycle, it keeps the modified state for the current session. If we reconnect now, it will lose these changes. So now we have a clear mismatch between what we see and what we hear. If you'd like to never experience that, you can tick our last option that will force the stored values every time the program change message is sent. As you see, this discarded the changes we did on the hardware. The editor also lets you undo and redo any number of changes, quickly restore the patch to its backup state, and save and load the editor patch configuration for future reference. Now let's go to the other tab. You've seen it already. Not much I can say about this one. It is a read-only bird's-eye view of every setting in the patch, which could be useful to study how certain patches are made. The only interactive things here are these buttons that show you the sequencer data if it's available and let you export it into a MIDI file. Also, it lets you open any PRM file located outside of your specified folder. Finally, you might see that some cells on my grid are colored in red and dark gray. This way, the app indicates either missing patches or those where the PRM data contains errors after manual modification. Hope you like what you saw. To get the app, follow the link in the description.